Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, to hear directly from candidates their views on issues that are important to our community. This is all leading up to the primary election, which is happening right now until June 23rd. That's right, things are a little different this year because of social distancing. So we're conducting our interviews from different locations. This year, we also took questions from email and social media, so we have a lot of topics to cover, so I figured we better just jump right in. Today's guest is Layne Wilkerson, and he is running for mayor. Welcome, Layne.
Hi, Cathy. Thank you, and thanks for having me, and thanks for putting this together for the benefit of the voters.
It's absolutely important this year because I know candidates haven't had the opportunity to campaign like they would want to. So this is very important. And again, we're glad you're here. So let's jump right in and let's have you start with telling us who you are and why you've decided to run for mayor.
Well, for those that don't know me, I'm Layne Wilkerson, and I think this is important to put a face with some of the yard signs you've seen out there and ads. And Layne Wilkerson, I grew up in Frankfort, and I am a native. And my parents were Maggie Tackett and Mike Wilkerson. They both moved to Frankfort. They were transplants from Eastern and Western Kentucky. So it's the typical state government story where different sides came from different parts of the state. And then I came along in King's Daughters Memorial Hospital at the old one behind Big Pack. And I grew up on the west side of town, went to Western Hills High School, played sports growing up, a typical childhood here in Frankfort, rode my bike all over town and spent a lot of time at Juniper Hills Pool, playing baseball at State Stadium, and then ultimately playing baseball in high school. And then I went on to college and played baseball at Kentucky State for a year. And then by that time, I had been in Frankfort. At that point, I was a teenager, been in Frankfort long enough, and I needed to get out of town. So I transferred to Western Kentucky, where I ultimately graduated. And after college, I didn't plan on coming back to Frankfort. I did go to Louisville, started my career as a financial planner there. And then after a while, decided that Louisville wasn't big enough, so I moved on to Chicago and continued my career as a financial planner there. While in Chicago, I was working with one of the largest financial planning firms in the world. And, I was single and I was having a good time in Chicago, but ultimately I ended up meeting my now wife, Natalie, and she's also a Frankfort native with strong roots in the community. And we chose to move back to Frankfort, start our family here, and then ultimately build my business here too. And it's been one of the best decisions I could have made. And that, so we've had a good, we've been successful building the business, and I feel like now I'm at a point where, based on my community service, being a business owner, again, strong roots in the community, being a father, raising a family here, making property investments in the community, I feel like now I have a good, varied experience, and I can bring more to the table as mayor.
Okay, so how does that experience transfer over to the skills necessary to be mayor? How has that prepared you to be mayor?
I think Frankfort needs to be a more prosperous and desirable place to live. And I think as a business owner, I work with families and individuals on financial planning and investment management and helping them achieve their goals. And I think as mayor, we need to set goals and development goals. I think one of our major areas of weakness right now is our lack of growth and our lack of diversification in our economy. We're too dependent on state government, and as mayor, I'll make a concerted effort to broaden our economy and focus on a more sustainable, more durable economy, and bring better jobs and provide more opportunities for everyone. And one of the ways we can do that is to focus on our quality of life as well. And there's various aspects to that, but improving our schools is one, capitalizing and improving on our various cultural and recreational assets, that's another. And then also focusing on making Frankfort a safer community too. I think all those things will attract residents, and if we attract enough residents, we can lower the burden on the rest of us and hopefully reduce taxes on all of us too.
Okay. Well, you covered a lot in that answer. We're going to hit on some of those topics individually as we go on. But let me ask you this. This year, Frankfort's going to see quite a turnover in city leadership because we will have a new mayor. We'll have at least 2 new city commissioners, if not more. So as mayor, what do you see as the challenges and opportunities for new leadership at this time?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we do have an opportunity right now for new leadership and a fresh perspective, and I bring both of those. And also, it's coinciding with what's turning out to be a critical time in Frankfort's history. And I've said that before when I announced my run for mayor. But with the COVID-19 crisis, it's even more so. So I think our opportunities right now. Well, one, we have the issue with the COVID-19 crisis. We need to make sure we get through this crisis. We got to focus on the short term, and we got to take care of those that need help, need food, need shelter, make sure that the businesses are supported, make sure we give everyone the resources they need to get through this crisis. That's the short term. And I think my experience as a financial planner can help with that. But I think, looking at the long term, this could be an opportunity because we are back to the starting line with a lot of other communities right now. Everyone's going through this nationally, regionally, in the state. All communities are dealing with this, and Frankfort has an opportunity to look inward and become more sustainable. We've seen a lot of people I think now more than ever, people are looking at shopping locally again, supporting our restaurants more than ever. And I think that's going to continue. And we need to make sure that continues coming out of this crisis.
Yeah. So if elected, what ideas do you have to deal with the economic crisis? Because like you said, it's not just Frankfort, it's everywhere. So how will it affect our budget, and what ideas do you have to supplement that or overcome that?
Right. Well, I think in the short term, we're already seeing a drop in the budget, in the revenue and the occupational tax. Short term, there may not be a whole lot we can do but we're going to have to we have to preserve our cash and be mindful of our expenditures. And if we are going to make expenditures, make sure that they're investments that are going to pay off in the long run. I think somebody who can evaluate rates of return and who has an experience making big investments like that will be an asset. And I think not long term, though, it speaks to one of my goals, diversifying the economy away from state government. One of the things I've been proposing is we need to focus more on not just companies. We always want to recruit companies to Frankfort, of course, but also workers. We need to build from the bottom up. And the pandemic is making it clear that that's a good thing to do. We need to focus on workers who have the ability to work anywhere or live anywhere. And essentially, they bring their job here. Doesn't matter what company they work for, but they live here and pay property taxes here, pay occupational taxes here. I think Frankfort's scale, its geographic, we're centrally located. I think our location is ideal. And I think right now in our cost of living, those qualities are very appealing to people who may be living in larger cities or getting priced out, people that just want something smaller. I think that type of worker we need to focus on. And then also what I would call the empty nesters, those that can also live anywhere. Maybe they've raised their kids, maybe they're in a larger city now. They just want something that's walkable. Maybe they don't need 2,000 restaurants to choose from, but they'd be happy with 20 good restaurants or more. And I think that's something, if we have the cultural and the recreational activities for that type of person, we're going to be more appealing. I think I will collaborate with the various development agencies, KCBC, DFI, Chamber, Tourism. I'll collaborate with them and do all I can to support their efforts.
Okay. Well, we are talking about this is a time where we should all pull together. Maybe it's a time to pool our resources. So given the ongoing economic crisis, do you think it's the time to revisit the issue of a city-county merger in government?
Well, I think I've said in the State Journal answer, I would be for it if the devil's in the detail was proposed. But I would consider it. Let's say that it's not something that will be a priority going into office, and it's not something I'm running on as my main platform. But if there's a good plan, I could see where it would make sense to, if not merge, at least look to consolidate certain agencies and work more closely with the county. And I think I have a good relationship with the county leadership, and I can work well with all types of people. But I do think that as mayor, we need a strong leader who can make sure that all parties' voices are heard on that they're all understood, and that everybody's viewpoint is important on that. But I think a proper plan could not only increase services for everyone, but potentially we could do more with less.
Okay. Well, currently, our city government is the city manager form of government. So under that form of government, what do you see as the role of the mayor?
The role of the mayor, I think it's, if we have this city manager form of government, I think works well in that you have someone that can do the day-to-day operations and manage staff, and it's, they're there 9 to 5 every day, if not longer. Sorry, they're probably working longer hours than that, but they're there day-to-day handling all of the city functions. And the mayor and the commission, they serve as setting the policies and the vision. I think the mayor has an important role in that they can be the face of the government. They're going to be the one out doing the public activities. They're going to be the one out promoting Frankfort, meeting with developers. They're going to be, and not just meeting with developers, but trying to be proactive and finding out what more we could be doing. But so that the mayor has an opportunity to set the vision and promote Frankfort while the city manager does all of the day-to-day stuff. So I think we have a strong city manager. We can have a strong mayor, just not doing the day-to-day stuff. And I'll say this, I feel like I could work well with the current city manager, where if we have the day-to-day stuff, I'm going to let them do. And that's not what I want to do. I want to be out being the face of Frankfort.
Okay. Well, earlier you mentioned the opportunities that we have with parcels B and C, and that it's a unique opportunity, especially to stimulate our economy. So the question now, there might be the question with the developer, if the developer can find a viable way forward post-COVID.
Right.
So what should city government do, if anything, to reduce that risk in an effort to make that project successful?
Well, I think the project is important, and particularly if they can put I think we do need more we need more housing and affordable housing, and we need different types of housing in Frankfort. I think that's one of our weaknesses. I didn't mention it before, but we do have a limited housing supply. And I think if a developer is going to put, let's say, 200 units there, that would make a significant impact in particularly downtown, but I think that would go throughout the community. So it is important, and I would do all I can to make it happen. And I don't know how much the city could do in a situation like this, so I'd have to be able to look at the budget. But we have to be careful not to put ourselves in a long-term financial bond for a short-term gain. But that could be a project where long-term it could pay off, particularly if we have permanent residents downtown. We had a new Y, if we could attract a grocery, if we could attract a corporate headquarters of some sort as well. I think that can make a huge impact. But I want to say that I want to be careful not to make the same mistakes that I don't want to build necessarily everything all at once so that it all falls apart all at once, like we saw with the Civic Center. And I know a lot of people were upset that the Civic Center was torn down, and there's nothing we can do about that now. And if we could rebuild it and have a hotel and do all those things, and it didn't cost much money, I would do all that. But we're going to have to prioritize as well.
Yeah. Well, another exciting project downtown is the Second Street Corridor project. In 2016, Frankfort got an $8 million Tiger grant from the federal government to reconstruct that area. So are you familiar with the plans, and how do you feel about the planned improvements?
I'm familiar, and I think I'm excited about the improvements. I will say that I do, about 12 years ago, me and a few others and a couple of other families got together and actually saved the Noonan's grocery building that's on the corner of 2nd and Shelby. So I was part of that group, and through attrition and since then, my wife and I have worked with others to actually take over, rehab another building that's on that block, on the 2nd Street block. So I've rehabbed a couple of properties there. We still own them, and now we have commercial tenants and residential upstairs. So I'm excited about this project. I think it's going to make a big difference in the aesthetics of 2nd Street. And plus, one of the things we're not really seeing above ground is all the stuff that they're doing below ground. I think infrastructure improvements, those are some of the things we need to focus on right now, because they're much needed, things that people don't see. But if we don't maintain our infrastructure now, it's going to be big problems later. So I'm excited about the Tiger grant.
Great. I agree with you about the infrastructure. What change, we're going to move now to some business related questions. What changes in policy would you support to make Frankfort more business friendly?
Well, I would look at some of the things we need to look at are the regulations and the code and code enforcements and the codes. But I think in the city, we don't see it as much in terms of zoning issues, and we don't see it that much in the city. But anything we can do to make it easier for, say, a restaurant to open or a shop to open or a business to move here, we need to do that. But we also need to be mindful of, we have to follow certain guidelines. Now, if it's an issue of, I don't know, I don't know much about, like, let's say the plumbing code, but I want to make sure that those things are addressed in a timely manner. And as mayor, I would be out in front and finding out what we need to be doing better as a city. And if we can improve on anything, I would take that up with, through the city manager. And if we need policy, I take that up with the other commissioners as well.
Okay. One thing that we've heard from KCDC and we have experienced here as well as a business is that is filling some jobs. It might be a little different now because because of COVID-19, but in the past, and I'm sure this is a problem that's just ongoing, is even when businesses find skilled workers to fill positions, they often can't pass a drug test. So what can city government do to help address this issue?
Well, I think education is a big thing. We're going to have to start younger. And one thing is making sure our city schools are some of the best in the state. And one of the things I'm passionate about, I have 3 kids in the city schools right now, is making sure that our both the city and the county schools are 2 of the best districts in the state. If we can do that, not only are we educating our current kids in the systems, but we will also attract people. Would be more likely to move here if they felt like our school systems were the best in the state. We would attract people. It would be a business development. But that's talking about the future. I think right now we have to, I don't know if we can somehow incentivize other people to move here to take the positions, but we have to promote it more. But the drug issue is a real one, and that's not the question, but that's something else we need to address here in Frankfort.
Right, it is an issue, and it's something that I know that a lot of groups here in town are working to put some programs together to help those folks. Another issue is the issue of homelessness here in Frankfort.
Right.
We've had to expand our homeless shelters because of the social distancing, but we have an overflow of homeless residents in our gym down at Frankfort High. So, is there anything city government can do to address the homelessness issue here?
I think in short term, I don't know how much we could do because of the COVID-19 crisis, but I think long term, and it is an issue, or at least that's what I'm hearing from people. And unfortunately, even if it wasn't reality, perception is reality, and we don't want if people feel like it's an issue, we need to address it. I think long term, housing is always going to be the primary thing there. If we could find more affordable housing to find a place for the homeless that just need a place to live and get back on their feet. I think that's going to be, and that's something the city can help with. We have to identify where, but I think making sure that we have policies in place to have affordable housing, but also collaborating with the various agencies, the various shelters, to make sure that they're coordinated in finding resources and helping them in any way we can as a city. I think that's important now. And then also just encouraging others right now to do all they can to help. It's not only about supporting small businesses here locally. It's not just about supporting the restaurants. It's also about taking care of those that are in need. And the homelessness has been an issue nationwide for decades. And it's a challenging problem. It'll be a priority as mayor for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about growth a little bit. You've talked about it in some of your answers, but in the last city commission election 2 years ago, all the candidates talked about how the stagnant population growth in Franklin County and that Frankfort needs a positive change to spur growth. Do you feel like the current commission has made a positive impact in moving Frankfort in the right direction? And is there anything, what changes would you make to help spur that growth?
Well, I don't know if there's been any, I don't think they've done anything to negatively send it back, but I don't know any issues particular that would have caused, let's say, a company from moving here or somebody from working here. I do think that if one of the things that we, again, focus on are the workers who can live anywhere and improving our quality of life. And if we can attract, improving quality of life means the cultural and recreational activities, and it means improving our school districts, and it also means reduction in taxes too. I feel like if people perceive that tax rates are higher here, everything else, the assets we have here are amazing. The location, the outdoor activities, being the capital, of course, there's the bourbon industry. There's so much we have to work with here. And I think we need to focus on part of the growth is finding permanent residents to live here. Another part is tourism. And I know we've talked about bourbon tourism is top of mind, but it's all types of tourism. We have the history here that most communities don't have. We're the 15th state capital, and that's a ranking that won't go away. I think we're right up there with a lot of communities there in terms of the history here. If you look at other communities in Kentucky that we're competing against, I think we have the charm, we have the history, the bourbon, the recreational activities, plus the river. I think if we were a corporation and if cities were corporations, I think other cities would look at us as a takeover candidate because we're undervalued right now. We're not capitalizing. We're not making the most of our assets. I'm not saying it's not anybody's fault in the past. It's just it's where we are now. And I think we need a new vision, new energy, and new perspective to unlock those things.
Okay. Well, we've talked about you as a developer have rehabbed some buildings downtown, and that's important because we have a lot of buildings, not only downtown but in the city of Frankfort that are abandoned. Yet we have development going on the outskirts. So what can the city do to encourage more infill?
They're already doing some things in terms of the rehabilitation grants, and they are offering those. And this year, I was on the committee that helped award those. There were 3 great projects that if all 3 of those were to get approved, it would make a big difference downtown. Besides that, the state and the federal, if you rehab a historic property to the guidelines, there are tax credits there too. So there are some incentives. I think the main thing is we have to have an increase in property values, and I've seen it from experience. Developers, unless you truly love rehabbing properties and take pride in what you're doing and just want to see the block blossom, it's hard for some developers to do rehab projects in Frankfort because the rents that they get won't meet the rate of return that they need to meet mortgage, interest, taxes, and insurance. They're not being able to charge enough in rents. Now, I don't want growth to be exponential, and I don't want to price up. We have to have affordable housing, but we just need to have some growth so that developers can make some return on their investment. Because when people, and we have people doing it now, and I thank goodness we do, and I've got plenty I could name. They know who they are, and we have people doing it now. So I don't want to make it sound like people aren't doing it. We have a lot of people doing it, but I think there are some maybe from out of town that would bypass Frankfort and say, well, why don't I go to Lexington? Why don't I go to Louisville where I can make more return? But Frankfort needs to be, I think another thing is we need to change the perception that Frankfort is hard to do business and it's hard to develop properties here. And I don't notice it. I don't see that, but I have heard that. And I think I do all I can as mayor to be out front there and trying to change that perception.
Okay, well, if given the opportunity, how would you make improvements, if any, to the Architectural Review Board?
I think if you look at a lot of things that happen in the city, they don't even go through the Architectural Review Board. So I think that for most people, it's not an issue. But in other times when what I would have to look at is making sure that they look at what the guidelines are and not make judgment on maybe things that aren't outside of what I would consider their scope. I think there could be that perception, but I think most of the projects, though, get approved. I forgot what percentage I've seen in the past, but most of the projects do get approved. And really it only applies to things in the historic, in the special districts. So there are some on the outskirts that maybe I think get lumped in with it, but aren't even subject to the Architectural Review Board. So, but I would definitely look at that though, and make sure that we have people appointed to that have expertise.
Okay. Well, we're starting to run short on time, so I've got just a few questions that require just a short answer. Okay. So, do you support allowing chickens in the city limits?
I would look at. I need to look at that further. I know that there are people that that want that.
Evidently, it's an issue.
Right, and I need to look at that further from a public health perspective. But on the surface, I'm not against it.
Okay. Would you support regulations on food trucks?
No. Well, there has to be regulations, but I want to be mindful of our existing restaurants too. But I think they're valuable, particularly now. I think it provides those who have a concept, they can take it to market maybe at a less cost than if they were to get in a brick and mortar store. But I think if you look at other cities, food trucks are all over the place. So yeah, we need to have guidelines, but I support it.
Okay. What's your stand on the bicycle ban at Leslie Morris Park?
Well, I think that it needs to be revisited. I think that I'm on a Capital City Museum board, and they took a stance against having the bikes at Leslie Morris Park. But I think that there is a difference between the historic area and the rest of the park. I think we need to look at that again, but I'm definitely against having any part of the historical area affected at all.
Okay. Some of the candidates have not been responding to the questions sent by the State Journal. If that includes you, why have you not taken this opportunity to make your views and ideas known to a wider audience?
That does not include me. I've answered every question, and some have been difficult, and I could see where some may not want to answer them every time. But I do think that I do think that they're missing an opportunity, those that aren't doing it, to get the word out. I've talked to other voters who, this is the only way that they're getting information besides what we're doing right now. And I think they're missing an opportunity to educate the rest of the population. Sometimes the questions may seem divisive, and they're bringing up issues from 10 years ago, 7 years, whatever. But it's contentious stuff. But it's stuff people want to know how you would have voted in that same situation. And it's not perfect, because I can say yes, I would have done this, or no, I would have done that. I wasn't in that situation, but I do think that it's important to answer the questions. Which I have.
Good. Well, now's your opportunity to directly address our voters and tell them why you're the best candidate for mayor, and ask for their vote.
Well, thanks, Cathy, and I do appreciate Cable 10 for doing this and helping voters understand more about the candidates and helping us get the word out. I think right now we do have an opportunity for new leadership and a fresh perspective in Frankfort. And again, it's happening at maybe one of the most critical times in our history. And someone with experience as a business owner, as an employer, as a native of Frankfort with strong roots in the community, as a father raising a family here, I think that combination of factors, plus my community involvement and the ability to work well with others, I think we can't overlook that right now. Somebody that can unite all sides, somebody who has the ability to understand the viewpoints of other people, make them feel important. I think somebody like that right now would work well with our constituents, the city staff, all the commissioners, and I think we'd be able to get more things accomplished with the right attitude. So I encourage the voters to look at me on June 23rd, vote for me, and together we'll make Frankfort a more prosperous and desirable place to live. And if you want to find out more, you can go to LayneWilkerson.com. That's L-A-Y-N-E, LayneWilkerson.com. Or you can find us on Facebook. Just type in Wilkerson for mayor.
Great. Well, I thank you so much for your time today, and I know that our viewers appreciate hearing from you. And to our viewers, let me say, voting's different this year. So be sure to go online and go to govoteky.com to request your ballot and get up to date on the voting process. Because this year it's different, so it's time. It's election season, people, so let's get informed and let's go voice your choice anytime between now and June 23rd. And that's all we have for this edition of Meet the Candidates, so we'll see you next time.